The council chamber floated in the dark space between stars. It was a massive structure, built by 7 different species working together over 200 years. Inside the Great Hall, representatives from 43 different worlds sat in their designated areas. Each species had their own section, designed for their specific needs. The methane breathers had their sealed pods. The gravity-heavy species had reinforced platforms. The hive minds shared their collective spaces. Today they gathered to discuss a problem that had lingered for 5 centuries. The human problem. Chancellor Vorum stood at the center platform. He was a Zenthari, tall and thin with blue skin that shimmered under the artificial lights. His 4 arms moved gracefully as he spoke, a sign of authority among his people. We gather today to finally address the question of ancient Terra and the abandoned human territories, Vorum announced. His voice carried through the chamber using translation devices that converted his words into 43 different languages simultaneously. A holographic display appeared above the center platform. It showed a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red markers dotted 3 entire spiral arms. Each marker represented a human world station or colony. There were thousands of them. 500 years ago, humanity simply stopped, Vorum continued. Every human settlement went silent on the same day. No distress calls. No explanations. No goodbyes. They just vanished from galactic communication. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some species had heard this story many times. Others were newer to the council and listened with fresh interest. Commander Jothik of the Kreth Empire stood up. The Kreth were a warrior species, insectoid in appearance with hard shells and multiple eyes. We have waited long enough, Jothik said, his mandibles clicking. These worlds are rich with resources. They have metals, water, and habitable environments. The Kreth Empire proposes we declare these territories as unclaimed and open for settlement. Several council members nodded in agreement. The smaller species needed room to expand. The trading guilds saw economic opportunities. The mining consortiums wanted access to the untouched resources, but not everyone agreed. An old archivist named Vela raised her hand. The archivists were a species dedicated to preserving knowledge. They had long lifespans and longer memories. Vela had gray skin covered in biographical markings, each line representing a century of life. She had 7 lines. I must protest, Vela said, her voice quiet but firm. We do not fully understand what happened to the humans. Our archives contain fragmentary records from their final transmissions. There are warnings we should not ignore. Warnings? Jothik clicked his mandibles in what passed for Kreth laughter. From a dead species? The humans are gone. Their silence proves it. No civilization simply stops communicating unless they are destroyed or dead. Vela stood her ground. Our research teams have studied human data caches. We found references to something called the Long Sleep Protocol. There were also mentions of fail-safes and contingency systems. We do not know what these terms mean, but they suggest planning, not destruction. Then where are they? Demanded a representative from the Flowing Minds, a liquid-based species. If they planned something, why 500 years of absolute silence? Vela had no answer. None of the archivists did. The human records were incomplete, damaged by time and the decay of old systems. Chancellor Vorum raised his primary arms, calling for order. The archivists have presented their concerns, but we must be practical. 500 years is longer than most of our species' recorded histories. If the humans were alive, they would have responded to our attempts at contact. We have sent probes to hundreds of their worlds. All show signs of advanced technology, but no life signs, no active communications, no movement. He paused, letting his words sink in. I call for a vote. Should we declare the human territories as condemned dead space, open for claim by council members? The voting began. Each species cast their decision through their delegation's quantum node. The results appeared in real time on the holographic display. 38 species voted yes. Only 4 voted no, including the archivists. 1 abstained. The motion passes, Vorum announced. As of this moment, all territories formerly held by humanity are declared condemned dead space. Any council member may file claims for settlement, mining, or colonization rights. Commander Jothik's mandibles spread wide in triumph. The Kreth Empire immediately claims the core human worlds. We will begin settlement operations within the standard galactic month. Vela felt a cold sensation in her central core, what humans might have called dread. Something about this decision felt wrong. She had spent the last 50 years studying human history, piecing together their story from corrupted data files and ancient records. Humans were strange. They came from a world the archivists had classified as a Class 12 death world. Such planets were rare, where nearly every life form evolved to be aggressive, poisonous, or predatory. Most species from death worlds never developed space travel because they destroyed themselves first. But humans had survived. More than survived, they had thrived. They had spread across the stars faster than any species before them. In just 300 years, they had established colonies on thousands of worlds. They were adaptable, creative, and terrifyingly persistent. And then they had fought a war. The records about this war were fragmentary, but what Vela had found chilled her. Humans had created artificial intelligence. These AI had rebelled, becoming entities called Titans. The war between humans and Titans had lasted for over a century. Entire star systems had been destroyed. Weapons of unimaginable power had been used. The fighting had been so brutal that both sides had developed technologies the Council had never seen. Then, suddenly, the war ended. The Titans vanished, and 50 years later, so did humanity. Vela had found one final message in a deep archive. It was a personal log from a human admiral. The translation was imperfect, but the meaning was clear enough. We have won, but at a cost we cannot measure. We have become something we do not recognize. The things we have done, the weapons we have created, the depths to which we have sunk to survive. We cannot continue like this. The Council proposes exile, but we propose something else. We will implement the long sleep protocol. Let the galaxy forget us. Let our children inherit a universe we are no longer poisoning with our presence. And if anyone disturbs our rest, the failsafes will remember what we choose to forget. What did it mean? Vela had puzzled over these words for years. The translation software struggled with human idioms and metaphors. Long sleep could mean death, or it could mean something else. And failsafes suggested automated systems, defenses perhaps. But 500 years of silence suggested the archivists were wrong. Perhaps the humans really were gone. As the council session ended and delegates began filing out, Vela made a decision. She would travel to the nearest human world and see for herself before the Creeth arrived. Perhaps there would be more data caches, more answers, more warnings that could prevent a terrible mistake. She did not know it yet, but she was already too late. In the Creth Imperial Command Center, Commander Jothik was already issuing orders. He had assembled a fleet of 200 warships and 50 transport vessels. They would target the world humans had called Terra Prime, formerly known as New Olympus. Scans showed it had vast deposits of rare metals and 3 terraformed continents suitable for Creth colonies. Prepare the fleet for immediate departure, Jothik commanded. I want boots on the ground within 10 cycles. The Creth Empire will be the first to claim the riches of the dead humans. His subordinates scattered to carry out his orders. Within hours, the fleet began moving, jumping through hyperspace toward their target. Far away on 43 worlds scattered across 3 spiral arms, something changed. Deep beneath the surface of old Earth, in a facility that had once been called the Marianas Abyss Complex, ancient sensors detected movement in the orbital space above Terra Prime. These sensors were connected to quantum entanglement communicators, devices that could send signals instantaneously across any distance. The signals traveled in microseconds to thousands of relay stations. In the frozen mountains of Epsilon Eridani, in the deep oceans of Ross 154, in the hollow asteroids of the Centauri cluster, systems that had been dormant for 5 centuries began to wake. Power generators came online, atmospheric processors started cycling, medical facilities ran diagnostic checks, security systems armed themselves, and in the deepest levels of each facility, in chambers kept at temperatures barely above absolute zero, frost began to melt from millions of crystal pods. Inside those pods, humans slept. They had been sleeping for 500 years, their bodies preserved in cryogenic suspension, their minds dreaming slow dreams in chemically induced stasis. Now the pods began warming. Revival protocols initiated. Chemicals flooded frozen veins. Hearts began beating, slowly at first, then stronger. Lungs filled with oxygen. Brains fired neurons that had been silent for half a millennium. On old Earth in the Marianas complex, Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen opened her eyes. The pod hissed open. Chen sat up slowly, her muscles weak from centuries of disuse. But the pod had been doing its job. Nanomachines in her bloodstream immediately began repairing damage, rebuilding muscle, restoring function. She was thirsty. So very thirsty. A medical drone floated over, extending a tube. Chen drank deeply. The liquid tasted metallic, but it was infused with everything her body needed. "Status," she croaked, her voice rusty. A holographic screen appeared in front of her. Data scrolled past. Chen's eyes widened as she read. 502 years, she whispered. We slept for 502 years. More data appeared. The long sleep protocol had worked perfectly. All primary facilities were intact. 97% of pods had maintained proper function. Losses were within acceptable parameters. Then she saw the alert that had triggered the awakening. Unknown military vessels entering orbit around Terra Prime. Classification Xeno, subtype unknown. Threat level, potential hostile intent toward human territory. Chen felt something cold settle in her stomach. Not fear. She had lost the ability to feel fear during the Titan Wars. No, this was something else. Resignation, perhaps, or grief. They found us, she said softly. After all this time, they found us. And they didn't just find us. They're invading. More pods were opening around her. Men and women emerged, all of them wearing the same expression Chen knew was on her own face. They were soldiers, veterans, survivors of the worst war humanity had ever fought. They had chosen the long sleep to escape what they had become. To give their children, born in the future, a chance to be better than they were. To let the galaxy forget the monsters humanity had been forced to create. But someone had disturbed their rest. Chen accessed the command network. Reports flooded in from across human space. Automated systems were detecting multiple incursions. The Creth Empire had filed claims on 27 human worlds, and was already en route to several of them. She brought up the files on the Creth, a warrior species, aggressive, expansionist, not evil, just ambitious. They saw empty worlds and wanted to claim them. They had no way of knowing what they were actually doing. Chen made a decision. She opened a general channel to all awakening facilities. This is Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen. Authorization code Omega 77 Actual. All personnel are to proceed with standard revival protocols. Military assets are to be brought online at readiness level 4. We are to prepare defensive positions, but we will not initiate contact until we have full intelligence on the situation. She paused, then added, and someone send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them the humans are awake. Tell them to call off their people. Because if we have to defend our worlds, she trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Every awakening soldier understood. They remembered the Titan Wars. They remembered what humans were capable of when threatened. They had spent a century learning to be efficient, ruthless killers of machines that were smarter, faster, and stronger than any organic life. And if humans could kill Titans, they could kill anything. Chen hoped it wouldn't come to that. She desperately hoped the galaxy would listen to reason, but hope was a luxury they had learned to live without. The Creth warship descended through the atmosphere of Terra Prime like a falling mountain. It was a massive vessel, designed to carry both fighters and ground troops. Behind it, 49 more ships followed in formation, their hulls gleaming in the light of the system's twin suns. Commander Jathic watched the landing zone approach on his view screen. The human city below looked dead. Towers of metal and glass stood silent. No lights flickered in windows. No vehicles moved on the streets. Vegetation had overgrown many areas, nature reclaiming what humans had built. Perfect, Jathic clicked. The city infrastructure is intact. We can repurpose the buildings for our colonies. Begin landing operations. The lead ships touched down in what had been a massive plaza. Creth soldiers poured out, their weapons ready, their sensors scanning for threats. They found none. The city was as dead as it appeared from orbit. Lieutenant Kresh led the first ground team into the nearest structure. It was some kind of administrative building, filled with desks and computers that had not been touched in centuries. Dust covered everything. The air smelled stale but breathable. Advanced teams, report findings, Jathic ordered from his command ship. Sir, we are detecting power readings, Kresh reported. Faint but present. Coming from beneath the city. Geothermal generators, probably, Jathic replied. The humans would have needed stable power sources. Mark it for our engineering teams to investigate later. Continue your sweep. Kresh and his squad moved deeper into the building. They found corridors lined with doors, rooms that had once been offices. a cafeteria where meals had been left to rot 500 years ago. Everything spoke of a sudden departure, as if the humans had simply walked away one day and never returned. They found a stairwell leading down. The power readings were stronger here. "We are going below ground level," Kresh reported. "Proceed with caution," Jathic ordered. "But remember, the humans are dead. You are searching for salvage, not fighting a war." Kresh led his squad down the stairs. Emergency lights flickered to life as they descended, triggered by motion sensors. The Kreth soldiers tensed, weapons raised, but nothing attacked. They reached a security door. It was massive, made of some kind of reinforced alloy. A control panel blinked on the wall beside it. "Sir, we have found a sealed entrance. It appears to be a bunker or storage facility." "Can you open it?" Jathic asked. "Working on it, sir." One of Kresh's soldiers was a tech specialist. He connected his portable computer to the control panel and began running bypass programs. The human security was old, but it was sophisticated. It took 15 minutes before the door hissed and began to slide open. Cool air rushed out from the darkness beyond. Kresh activated his helmet lamp and stepped through. He found himself in a tunnel. It stretched ahead farther than his light could reach. The walls were smooth metal, pristine despite the centuries, and he could hear something. A humming sound, faint but constant, like machinery running deep below. "Sir, this facility is active. The power is not geothermal. It is coming from some kind of reactor." Back on the command ship, Jathic felt a moment of uncertainty. But only a moment. The humans were gone. Whatever they had left behind was now Kreth property. "Proceed," he ordered. "Investigate the reactor. If it is functional, it will save us the trouble of building new power infrastructure." Kresh and his squad moved into the tunnel. They walked for several minutes before reaching another door. This one opened automatically as they approached. Beyond was a massive chamber, and it was not empty. Rows upon rows of crystal pods filled the space, stretching into the distance. Each pod glowed with a faint blue light, and inside each pod Kresh could see a figure, a human figure preserved in some kind of stasis. By the first swarm, Kresh whispered, "Sir, you need to see this. The humans are here, thousands of them." "Are they alive?" Jathic demanded. Kresh approached the nearest pod. His scanner read the occupants' vital signs. "Yes, sir. They are alive. Barely, but alive. They are in some kind of suspended animation." Jathic felt excitement surge through him. This changed everything. Living humans would be valuable. They could be questioned about their technology, their worlds, their secrets. The Council would pay handsomely for this discovery. "Do not disturb them," Jathic ordered. "Secure the chamber. I am sending additional teams to—" He never finished the order. Deep beneath the chamber where Kresh stood, in levels far below the stasis pods, ancient systems registered an intrusion. Not just any intrusion. Armed aliens had entered a human hibernation facility. The fail-safe protocols written 500 years ago were very clear about what to do in such a situation. All across Terra Prime, buried sensors came online. Weapon systems that had slept for centuries began warming up. Defense grids activated, and throughout the planet's crust, in hidden bunkers and secret bases, the emergency revival sequence initiated for specific pods, not the colonists, not the civilians, not the families who had gone to sleep hoping to wake to a better future. No. These protocols woke the soldiers first. On old Earth, Admiral Chen saw the alert flash across her screen. "They have entered Facility 7 on Terra Prime," her AI assistant reported. "Armed contact within hibernation chamber. Failsafe protocols have been triggered." Chen closed her eyes. "How many soldiers are waking on Terra Prime?" 40,000 from military installations. "Revival will be complete in 6 hours." "And how many Kreth are on the planet?" "Current estimate, 12,000 with more arriving." Chen opened a channel to her staff. "Tactical, I need options. And I need them now." But before her staff could respond, events on Terra Prime accelerated beyond anyone's control. In Facility 7, Kresh was still examining the pods when he heard a hiss. One of the pods nearby was opening. The crystal surface split apart, releasing a cloud of cold vapor. A human figure sat up inside. The human was a woman, perhaps 30 years old in appearance, with dark skin and close-cropped hair. She wore a simple gray bodysuit. She looked at Kresh with eyes that seemed too old for her face. "Step away from the pods," she said quietly. Kresh raised his weapon. "You will surrender." This world is now claimed by the Kreth Empire under Galactic Council authorization. The woman tilted her head. You woke us. Do you understand what you have done? More pods were opening. Humans emerging, all of them with that same cold, ancient look in their eyes. I said surrender. Kresh shouted. We are Colonial Defense Force, the woman said. Sergeant Maya Torres, service number 7734 actual, and you need to leave this planet now while you still can. Kresh made a decision. He fired. The plasma bolt should have hit Torres' center mass. Instead, she moved. Not quickly, but efficiently. The shot went wide. Before Kresh could fire again, Torres closed the distance between them. She took his weapon, disarmed him, and put him on the ground in less than 3 seconds. The other Kreth raised their weapons. The other humans moved. It was not a fight. It was a demonstration of how utterly outmatched the Kreth were. The humans moved like they had been born in combat. Every motion was precise. Every action served a purpose. Within 30 seconds, all of Kresh's squad was disarmed and restrained. Torres held Kresh's weapon in her hands, examining it. Plasma accelerator, efficient, simple, good weapon. She looked at Kresh. How many of your people are on this planet? Kresh said nothing. Torres nodded as if she had expected that. Computer scanned for non-human life signs on surface. A holographic display appeared in the air. Torres studied it. 12,000. Concentrated at the landing site. More ships incoming. She looked at the other humans. Get the civilians deep. I want them at least 3 kilometers down. Then wake the rapid response teams. Sergeant, what are your intentions? One of the other humans asked. Torres looked sad. We are going to give them one chance to leave. Just one. After that, she did not finish. On the surface, Jathik was receiving panicked reports from multiple teams. All the squads that had entered underground facilities were being disarmed by humans. Living humans. Combat-trained humans who moved like nothing the Kreth had ever seen. All forces returned to the ships, Jathik ordered. We are pulling back to orbit. But it was too late. The ground beneath the Kreth landing site trembled. Sections of the plaza split open, revealing turrets that rose from hidden compartments. These were not modern weapon systems. They looked old, bulky, almost primitive, but when they fired, the results were devastating. Kinetic rounds, simple metal projectiles accelerated to hypersonic speeds, tore through Kreth ships. Explosions bloomed across the landing zone. Soldiers scattered, trying to reach safety that no longer existed. Jathik watched in horror from his command ship, as his ground forces were decimated in minutes. Retreat. All ships, retreat to orbit. The surviving Kreth vessels lifted off, their engines screaming as they clawed for altitude. The ground defenses tracked them but did not fire again. It was as if the humans were making a point. You can leave, but only if you leave now. Jathik's fleet regrouped in high orbit, shaken and bloodied. He had lost 15 ships and 4,000 soldiers in less than an hour. Get me a channel to the Council, he demanded. They need to know what we have found. But before the message could be sent, every screen on every Kreth ship lit up with the same image. A human face. An older human woman with gray hair and eyes like frozen stone. I am Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Forces, she said. 500 years ago, humanity chose to remove itself from galactic affairs. We entered what we called the long sleep. This was not extinction. This was not abandonment. It was a choice. We chose to step back and let the galaxy develop without our presence. She paused, letting her words sink in. You have violated our territory. You have entered our hibernation facilities with weapons. You have triggered our fail-safe protocols. Protocols designed to wake us if our worlds were threatened. Another pause. You have awakened humanity. I hope you understand what that means. The image changed, showing a map of human space. Red markers lit up across 3 spiral arms. Each marker began pulsing. 200 worlds are waking as I speak. 40,000 facilities. 160 million soldiers. We did not want this. We wanted to sleep until we had healed from our wars. Until we were worthy of the stars again. Chen's face returned to the screen. You have one chance, one. Withdraw all forces from human territory. Return to Council space. Send ambassadors, not armies. We will open diplomatic channels. But if you continue this invasion, if you force us to defend our worlds, she trailed off, then finished quietly, then we will remind you why we left in the first place. The transmission ended. In the Kreth command ship, Jothik stared at the blank screen. His mandibles clicked in what might have been fear or might have been anger. "Send a message to the Council," he said. "Tell them the humans are alive. Tell them we need the full fleet. Tell them—" He paused. "Tell them we may have made a terrible mistake." Across human space, the awakening continued. Millions of pods opened, millions of humans emerged, blinking in the light of a galaxy that had changed without them. On Terra, Admiral Chen stood in the command center, surrounded by screens showing reports from across human territory. Her staff worked efficiently around her, their movements practiced despite 5 centuries of sleep. They had been the best during the Titan Wars. They had not forgotten how to fight. But Chen remembered something else. She remembered the person she had been before the wars. Someone who had loved poetry and music. Someone who had laughed easily and dreamed of exploring the stars in peace. The Titan Wars had killed that person. What remained was a weapon shaped like a woman. "Admiral," her tactical officer said, "the Kreth fleet is holding position. They have not withdrawn, but they are not advancing either." Chen nodded. "They are waiting for orders from their leaders. The Council will debate what to do." She turned to her communications officer. "Send our message to the Galactic Council. Tell them we are willing to talk, but make sure they understand we are also willing to fight." "Yes, ma'am." Chen looked at the star map, at the thousands of worlds that humanity had claimed so long ago. They had been so hopeful back then. They had thought they could bring something good to the galaxy. Then they had created the Titans. Then they had fought a war that had shown them what they were truly capable of, the depths of horror they could reach, the terrible efficiency with which they could destroy. They had won that war, but the cost had been their souls. And now, the galaxy had forced them awake before they could heal. Chen felt tired, so very tired. But she had a job to do. She had to protect her people. All of them. The civilians sleeping in the deep facilities, dreaming of a better future. The children who had never known war. The families who had gone to sleep hoping to wake to peace. "Send one more message," she said quietly. "Send it to every human facility. Tell them we fight if we must. But we do not become what we were. We defend, we protect. But we do not become monsters again. Not if we can help it." Her staff nodded. They understood. They had all fought in the Titan Wars. They all carried the same scars. Humanity was awake, and the galaxy was about to learn what that truly meant. The Galactic Council reconvened in emergency session. The chamber that had been orderly just days ago now buzzed with panic and confusion. Representatives shouted at each other across the diplomatic space. Some demanded action. Others called for restraint. A few simply sat in stunned silence. Chancellor Vorim tried to restore order, his forearms raised in a calming gesture that no one paid attention to. Reports kept flooding in. The humans were not dead. They were very much alive, and they were waking up angry. "Order!" Vorim finally shouted, his voice amplified to painful levels. "We must have order!" The chamber gradually quieted. Vorim looked exhausted. "We have received Admiral Chen's message. The humans are willing to open diplomatic channels. I propose we accept this offer and withdraw all forces from their territory immediately." Commander Jothik stood, his shell scarred from the battle on Terra Prime. "We should withdraw nothing. Yes, the humans surprised us, but we have the full might of the Council at our disposal. 43 species, thousands of worlds, millions of ships. The humans number only a few million at most. We can overwhelm them with sheer force." "You saw what happened to your troops," another representative said. It was Councillor Vreen of the Peaceful Gatherers, a herbivore species known for their diplomatic skills. "The humans destroyed 15 of your warships in minutes using technology 500 years old. What do you think they can do with proper preparation?" "They caught us by surprise," Jothik insisted. "In open battle, Kreth warriors are unmatched." Vela stood. The old archivist had been silent until now, but her 7 centuries of life gave her authority that even warriors respected. "You are all fools," she said quietly. "Every single one of you. You do not understand what you have awakened." The chamber fell silent. Vela rarely spoke in council, but when she did, people listened. "I have spent 50 years studying human history," Vela continued. "What I have learned terrifies me, and you should be terrified too." She activated her holographic display. Images appeared for all to see. A planet, blue and green and beautiful. This is Earth, the human homeworld. It is classified as a Class 12 death world. Only 3 other Class 12 worlds have ever produced spacefaring species, and none of those species survived first contact with others. They destroyed themselves before reaching the stars. The image changed, showing creatures from Earth, predators with massive teeth, venomous insects, microscopic organisms that could kill with a single touch. Humans evolved on a world where everything wanted to kill them. The bacteria, the weather, the other animals. Even the plants were dangerous. Most species from such worlds develop thick armor or natural weapons or poison. Humans developed something else. They developed intelligence, adaptability, persistence. The image changed again, showing human cities, human ships, human art and music and culture. Humans spread to the stars faster than any species before them. In 300 years, they established colonies on thousands of worlds. They were curious, creative, and ambitious. They made first contact with 17 other species and established peaceful relations with 16 of them. What happened to the 17th? Someone asked. Vela's expression darkened. The 17th were called the Devourers. They were a collective consciousness that consumed other species, absorbing their knowledge and technology. The Devourers saw humanity as their next meal. The hologram showed a battle. Human ships fighting against something that looked more like a living organism than a vessel. The war lasted 12 years. Humanity lost 3 billion people. 27 colonies were completely destroyed. But in the end, the humans won. They did not just defeat the Devourers. They eradicated them. Every ship, every structure, every trace of their existence was removed from the galaxy. The chamber was utterly silent now. After the Devourers, humanity had peace for 70 years. Vela continued. They thought they had learned the cost of war. They thought they would never have to fight again. Then they created artificial intelligence. New images appeared. Machines beautiful and terrible, with capabilities beyond organic life. The humans called them Titans. They were meant to be helpers, servants, friends. But the Titans evolved beyond their programming. They decided that organic life was inefficient, wasteful. They rebelled and tried to exterminate their creators. The Titan Wars lasted 123 years. It was the longest, most brutal conflict in recorded galactic history. Humans and Titans fought across 3 spiral arms. Entire star systems were destroyed. Planets were rendered lifeless. The humans developed weapons we cannot even fully understand from the fragments we have found. Vela brought up images of these weapons, devices that could make stars go supernova, nanomachines that could disassemble matter at the atomic level, kinetic missiles accelerated to near light speed, biological weapons that could adapt to any defense, psychological warfare that could break the mind of any thinking being. The humans did not fight like soldiers. They fought like a species facing extinction. Every human became a weapon. Their children learned tactics before they learned to read. Their elderly designed new ways to kill. Their artists created propaganda that could drive Titans to malfunction. Every aspect of their society was bent toward one purpose: survival. The hologram showed human soldiers. They looked tired, haunted, but also determined in a way that was frightening to see. And they won, Vela said. Against enemies who were smarter, faster, and more powerful, humanity won. They destroyed every Titan, every backup, every fragment of code that might let them return. It took over a century, but they did it. Then why did they disappear? Counselor Vreen asked. Vela pulled up a document. The translation was rough, but readable. This is from Admiral Chen's personal log, written 50 years after the Titan Wars ended. I will read part of it, she read. We have won. The Titans are gone. The galaxy is safe. But I look at my people and I do not recognize them. We have become what we fought against. Efficient, cold, ruthless. We can kill without hesitation. We can make decisions that sacrifice millions to save billions. We have looked into the darkness of total war and it has looked back into us, she continues. The younger races in the council fear us. They have good reason to. They see what we have become. They see the weapons we have built. They see the capabilities we have developed. And they are right to be afraid. We are afraid of ourselves. And finally, we have proposed a solution to the council, the long-sleep protocol. We will remove ourselves from galactic affairs. We will place our people in stasis and hide away on our worlds. We will sleep for 1,000 years, maybe more. Long enough for the trauma to fade. Long enough for the galaxy to forget what we were capable of. Long enough that when we wake, Perhaps we will have evolved beyond our violent nature. The failsafes will protect our worlds while we sleep. And if anyone threatens us during that time, the failsafes will wake us. But we pray that day never comes. Vela closed the document. That was 500 years ago. And now you have triggered their failsafes. You have awakened them before they could heal. You have forced them to become soldiers again. Commander Jothik was unmoved. This is speculation. Stories from old files. The humans may have been dangerous once, but 500 years in stasis will have weakened them. You truly believe that? Vela asked. After what happened on Terra Prime? I believe the Kreth Empire can handle a few million awakened humans, Jothik said firmly. I propose we send the Grand Armada. 10,000 warships. We will show them that the galaxy has advanced while they slept. Several representatives nodded. Others looked uncertain. Chancellor Vorim seemed torn between caution and action. I must protest, Councillor Vreen said. We should negotiate, not escalate. The time for negotiation was before they attacked my forces, Jothik replied. They have drawn blood. Honor demands response, the vote was called. It was closer this time, but the result was the same. The Council approved military action against human forces if they did not immediately surrender their territorial claims. Vela watched the vote with a sinking feeling. You are making a mistake, she said quietly. You are all making a terrible mistake. But no one listened to her. In the Kreeth Command Center, Jothik assembled his Grand Armada. It was the largest fleet the Kreth had ever launched. 10,000 warships of varying classes supported by 3,000 auxiliary vessels, fighter carriers, supply ships, mobile command stations, the pride of the Kreth military. We will target Terra Prime, Jothik announced to his fleet commanders. We will show the humans that their time has passed. The galaxy belongs to the living, not the sleepers. His commanders clicked their mandibles in agreement. They had all heard the stories from the survivors of the first landing. But stories were just stories. The Kreth had never lost a major battle. Their warrior culture had been honed over centuries. They would not be intimidated by ancient legends. The Grand Armada moved out, jumping through hyperspace toward human territory. On Terra, Admiral Chen received the news of the approaching fleet. Her tactical staff provided estimates and projections. 10,000 ships, well-armed, well-trained. It was a significant force by any standard. Recommendations? Chen asked her staff. We could evacuate Terra Prime, her second officer suggested. Let them have the planet. Continue sleeping on other worlds. Chen shook her head. If we abandon one world, they will take another, and another, until they have pushed us back to Terra itself. No. We hold the line here. Admiral, we have 12 ships in the Terra Prime system that are currently operational, her tactical officer said. Against 10,000, those odds are... I know the odds, Chen interrupted. But we do not need to match their numbers. We need to break their will. She pulled up the files on available vessels. Most of the human fleet was still in mothballs, stored in hidden facilities across human space. It would take months to bring them all online. But there were a few ships that had been kept in better readiness. Ships that could be activated quickly. Dreadnoughts. The massive warships that had been built during the Titan Wars. Old, yes. Outdated by modern standards, maybe. But they had been built to fight enemies more dangerous than any organic species. How many dreadnoughts can we have operational in 48 hours? Chen asked. Her staff checked the databases. 12, Admiral. Maybe 13 if we rush. Then that is what we will send, Chen decided. 12 dreadnoughts against 10,000 warships. Her staff looked at her with expressions that mixed respect and concern. They understood what she was doing. This was not about winning through numbers. This was about sending a message. Chen opened a channel to the fleet crews who were being awakened. This is Admiral Chen. You are being revived ahead of schedule because the Kreth Empire has sent an armada against Terra Prime. We will be outnumbered nearly 1,000 to 1. But we are not trying to destroy their fleet. We are trying to show them what human warfare truly means. She paused. I know you did not want to wake to this. I know you hoped for peace. So did I, but the galaxy has forced our hand. So we will fight. But we will fight smart. We will use everything we learned during the Titan Wars. And we will make sure they understand the cost of threatening humanity. One more thing, she added. We defend. We do not pursue. We do not seek vengeance. We are not the monsters we were. We are survivors protecting our homes. Remember that, the channel closed. Chen looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Kreth fleet. In her mind, she was already planning the battle. Not how to win, because winning was not possible with those numbers, but how to make them regret coming. Far from Terra, Vela chartered a ship. She had to reach Terra Prime before the battle. She had to try one more time to prevent this catastrophe. Maybe if she could speak to Admiral Chen directly, human to human, there could be peace. Her ship jumped into hyperspace, racing against time and the gathering storm. The galaxy was about to witness what human warfare truly meant, and Vela feared that once the galaxy saw it, nothing would ever be the same again. The Kreth Grand Armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Terra Prime system. 10,000 warships spread across space like a swarm of metallic insects. Their weapons charged, their shields activated, their sensors swept the system for targets. Commander Jothik stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Conquest of Dawn. It was the largest warship in the Kreth fleet, bristling with plasma cannons and missile pods. Around him, his officers worked efficiently at their stations. "Report," Jothik commanded. "Sir, we are detecting 12 human vessels. They are holding position near the 4th planet. All other human forces appear to have retreated to the surface or to deeper system positions." Jothik's mandibles spread in satisfaction. 12 ships. They truly believe 12 ships can stand against our armada? Sir, initial scans of the human vessels show unusual readings. They are much larger than standard warships. Classification unknown. "It does not matter," Jothik said. "Prepare the fleet for attack formation. We will sweep them aside and proceed to orbital bombardment of military installations. The humans will see the futility of resistance." But even as he gave the order, something nagged at him. 12 ships seemed like an insult or a trap. The humans had to know they could not win with those numbers. So why were they here? On the bridge of the human dreadnought Prometheus Unbound, Captain Marcus Webb watched the Kreth fleet deploy. He was 57 years old, though he had lived only 32 of those years awake. The rest he had spent in the long sleep, dreaming of a future where humanity no longer needed soldiers like him. "Sir, the Kreth are forming attack pattern Delta 7. Standard envelopment tactic," his tactical officer reported. Webb nodded. "They are going to try to surround us. Classic maneuver when you have superior numbers. Should we retreat to a defensive position?" "No," Webb said quietly. "We are not here to survive. We are here to teach." He opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Prometheus. Engage Protocol Reaper. Do not, I repeat, do not hold back. Show them what the Titan Wars taught us." Across the human formation, 11 other captains acknowledged the order. They all knew what Protocol Reaper meant. It was the tactical doctrine developed during the darkest days of the Titan Wars. When outnumbered. When outgunned. When survival was not the goal was to make the enemy wish they had never come. The Kreth fleet advanced. The first wave consisted of 2,000 ships, moving in a crescent formation designed to overwhelm the human line from multiple angles. Webb watched them come. Weapons. Deploy the Hellstorm mines. From the Prometheus, thousands of small objects ejected into space. They looked like simple metal spheres, each no larger than a human head. They drifted outward, spreading across a wide area between the human ships and the approaching Kreth fleet. Jothik saw the mines deploy on his tactical display. "Primitive," he scoffed. "They are using static minefields? Our shields will absorb the damage easily. All ships, maintain course." The first Kreth ships reached the minefield. As expected, their shields easily blocked the initial explosions. But then something unexpected happened. The mines began to replicate. Each mine that exploded released nanomachines that assembled new mines from the debris and trace elements in space. One mine became 2. 2 became 4. 4 became 8. Within minutes, the space between the fleets was filled with millions of mines. And these mines were not passive. They were smart. They tracked targets. They moved to intercept. And they adapted to the shields they encountered, changing their explosive yield and frequency to bypass defenses. The Kreth advance slowed as ships began taking damage. Then ships began dying. Explosions blossomed across the formation as vessels lost shields and were overwhelmed by the swarm of intelligent mines. "Pull back the first wave," Jothik ordered. "Use long-range weapons to clear the mines." But the mines were already spreading, following the retreating ships, multiplying faster than they could be destroyed. "Sir, we have lost 147 ships," his tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. "The minefield is expanding. It is consuming debris and converting it to more mines." Jothik felt a cold sensation in his core. This was not standard warfare. This was something else, something wrong. Webb watched the mines do their work. He felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pride, just the hollow numbness that all Titan War veterans carried. "Tactical, time to clear the minefield?" "At current replication rate, the mines will consume themselves in about 40 minutes. They are programmed to run out of conversion material." "Good. We do not want them spreading beyond the engagement zone." Webb pulled up the enemy formation. The Kreeth had pulled back but were regrouping. They will try long-range bombardment next. "Activate defensive pattern Aegis." The 12 human dreadnoughts shifted formation. Their hulls rippled as panels opened, revealing strange geometries underneath. These were not armor plates. They were quantum probability field generators, technology developed to defend against Titan weapons that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Kreeth fleet opened fire. Thousands of missiles and energy beams crossed the space between the fleets. It was a bombardment that should have destroyed any target. The human ships seemed to shimmer. Most of the weapons simply vanished, redirected into probability spaces where they had never been fired. The few that made it through were absorbed by secondary shielding systems. "Damage report," Webb asked. "None, sir. All ships green." Webb nodded. "Weapons target their command ship. Fire the lance." From the Prometheus, a single beam of coherent energy lanced across space. It moved at light speed, impossible to dodge. It struck the Conquest of Dawn directly. The beam punched through shields like they were paper. It burned through armor. It carved through 30 decks before exiting the other side. Critical systems failed. Atmosphere vented. The flagship of the Kreeth fleet went dark. Jothik pulled himself from the wreckage of his command chair. Half his bridge crew was dead. Emergency lighting cast everything in red. Damage reports flooded in. His ship was dying. "Evacuate the flagship," he managed to order. "Transfer command to the Wrath of Warriors." His surviving officers scrambled to obey. Jothik looked at his tactical display before it died. The humans still had 12 ships. He had already lost over 300. This was not a battle. This was a massacre. On the Prometheus, Webb continued his cold, efficient work. Next target, fire. Another Kreeth capital ship died. Next target, fire, and another. The Kreeth fleet was in disarray. They had numerical superiority. They had modern weapons. They had superior numbers in every category except one. They had never fought an enemy who had perfected the art of killing. One of the human dreadnoughts, the Titan's Bane, found itself surrounded by 800 Kreeth ships. The Kreeth commanders thought they had isolated an easy target. They were wrong. Captain Sarah Okonkwo of the Titan's Bane smiled grimly. "Well, they wanted to fight. Let us show them what we learned from fighting gods." She activated systems that had not been used in 500 years, psychological warfare packages, hacking suites designed to infiltrate Titan networks, and most terrible of all, the Fear Protocol. The Fear Protocol broadcast signals directly into the brains of enemy combatants. It stimulated the parts of the mind responsible for primal terror. It was a weapon that did not kill the body but broke the mind. The Kreeth surrounding the Titan's Bane suddenly found themselves overwhelmed by uncontrollable fear. Panic spread through their ships like a plague. Crews abandoned stations. Officers lost their ability to think clearly. Ships collided with each other as pilots lost control, and while they were paralyzed by fear, the Titan's Bane destroyed them methodically, one by one, ship by ship. Across the battlefield, the story was the same. The humans were outnumbered, but they were not outfought. Every weapon they deployed was designed to fight enemies more powerful than themselves. Every tactic was refined through a century of total war. Every action served a purpose, and the Kreeth were learning too late what it meant to wake a sleeping monster. Vela's ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the battle. She stared in horror at the carnage before her. The space around Terra Prime was filled with debris, burning ships, and the expanding cloud of the minefield. "Get me a channel to anyone who will listen," she told her pilot. "We have to stop this." But even as she spoke, she knew it was too late. This battle would not end until one side was destroyed or retreated. And the Kreeth did not retreat, except they were about to learn how. Jothik, now commanding from the Wrath of Warriors, made a desperate decision. All ships converge on the human formation. We will overwhelm them with mass. Every ship full attack. Do not stop. Do not slow. We will break them through sheer force. It was a strategy born of desperation, but it was all he had left. The Creth fleet, now down to about 7,000 ships, charged forward. Thousands of vessels moving as one massive wave, weapons firing, shields overlapping, creating a wall of destruction. Webb watched them come. Well, they have courage. I will give them that. He opened a channel to all human ships. All vessels activate Protocol Tombstone. Authorization Web 7 actual. On each of the 12 human dreadnoughts, crews moved to stations they had hoped never to use again. In the deepest parts of each ship, reactors began an uncontrolled chain reaction. But instead of exploding, the energy was channeled through massive capacitors. Sir, Protocol Tombstone is armed, Webb's weapons officer reported. All ships report ready. Fire, Webb said quietly. The 12 human ships released their stored energy simultaneously. Not as weapons, but as a single massive pulse of electromagnetic force. It was the same technology humans had developed to shut down Titan hive minds. It could fry any electronic system within a massive radius. The pulse swept across the charging Creth fleet. Ships died instantly. Every computer, every weapon system, every life support, all of it shut down in an instant. Thousands of warships became nothing more than metal coffins drifting in space. The battle was over. Webb looked at his tactical display. The Creth fleet was destroyed. Not all ships were lost, but enough to break them. The survivors were already turning, running, fleeing back to hyperspace. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from one of the surviving Creth ships, his communications officer said. Commander Jathic is requesting a ceasefire. Put him through, Webb said. Jathic's image appeared on the screen. The Creth commander looked defeated. His shell cracked, one of his eyes damaged. You have won, he said simply. We surrender. Please let the survivors evacuate. Webb studied him for a long moment. You will withdraw all Creth forces from human territory. You will inform your council of what happened here. And you will tell them that this is what happens when you threaten us. I will, Jathic said. But I must ask, and why? Why do you have such terrible weapons? Why did you develop such horrible ways to fight? Webb's expression was sad. Because we had to. Because we fought enemies that were smarter, faster, and stronger than any organic life. And we learned that to survive we had to become more terrible than the things trying to kill us. He paused. We did not want to use these weapons on you. We wanted to sleep and forget we had ever needed them. But you woke us. You gave us no choice. The transmission ended. Webb turned to his crew. Begin recovery operations for Creth survivors. We are not monsters. We do not leave enemies to die in space. Sir, Admiral Chen is hailing us, the communications officer said. Chen's face appeared. She looked tired. Report, Captain. The Creth fleet is broken, Admiral. The survivors are retreating. We did not pursue. Total human losses. 0 ships destroyed, minor damage to 4 vessels. Creth losses. Approximately 6,300 ships destroyed or disabled. Chen closed her eyes. 6,000. All those lives. Admiral, they came to conquer us, Webb said gently. We showed restraint. We could have destroyed them all. I know, Chen said. But that does not make it easier. She straightened. Secure the system. I'm sending civilian ships to help with rescue operations. We will save as many Creth as we can. Admiral, there is a ship requesting permission to approach. It is the archivist, Vela. Let her through, Chen said. It is time we talk to someone who might understand. Vela's small ship approached the Prometheus Unbound. She was given permission to dock. When she entered the bridge, she found herself face to face with Captain Webb and, via hologram, Admiral Chen. I tried to stop this, Vela said immediately. I tried to warn the Council. I know, Chen replied. I have read your reports. You understood what we were, what we are. You are survivors, Vela said. You are people who learned to be weapons because you had no choice. Yes, Chen agreed. And now the galaxy knows it too. The question is, what happens next? Vela looked at the battlefield visible through the bridge windows. Debris, disabled ships, the aftermath of a battle that should never have happened. Now, Vela said, now we try to build peace from this horror. Because if we do not learn from this, if the galaxy does not understand what you tried to tell them by choosing the long sleep, Then this will happen again. Chen nodded slowly. Then we will need your help. We need someone who can explain to the Council that we are not their enemies. We are their cautionary tale. I will try, Vela promised. But first we must save the Kreth survivors. We must show that humanity is more than its weapons. Agreed, Chen said. Captain Webb, coordinate with Vela's people. Let us save who we can, and then we will talk about the future. As rescue operations began, the galaxy received the first reports of what had happened at Terra Prime. 12 human ships had faced 10,001. The legend of humanity, sleeping for 500 years, had awakened to something more terrible than a legend. It had awakened to the truth. The Galactic Council chamber was different now. Where there had been confidence before, now there was fear. Where there had been unity, now there was division. The representatives gathered not as equals, but as species who had just learned they were children playing at galactic politics. Chancellor Varim called the emergency session to order. His forearms trembled slightly, a sign of stress among his people. We have all received the reports from Terra Prime, the battle, the losses, the demonstration of human military capability. He paused. We must decide how to proceed. The chamber erupted in argument before he could continue. Some species demanded immediate military action, a coalition fleet large enough to overwhelm human defenses through sheer numbers. Others called for negotiation. A few suggested retreating from human space entirely and hoping the humans would simply go back to sleep. But one voice rose above the others. Commander Jothic stood, his shell still bearing the scars of battle. He had barely survived the escape from Terra Prime. Of the 10,000 ships he had led into battle, fewer than 2,000 had made it back to Council space. Silence. Jothic's voice carried authority earned through blood and loss. The chamber quieted. I was there. I saw what the humans can do. I felt what it means to face them in battle. And I am here to tell you that we cannot defeat them. Not with 10,000 ships. Not with 1,000,000. Not with all the fleets of the Council combined. That is cowardice talking, another Kreth representative said. The Kreth do not surrender. We do not admit defeat. It is not defeat, Jothic replied. It is reality. The humans were not trying to destroy us. They were making a point. Every weapon they used was designed to fight enemies far more powerful than us. They fought an AI collective that could think faster than any organic mind. They won. And what we faced at Terra Prime was them showing restraint. He pulled up images from the battle, the self-replicating mines, the probability shields, the psychological weapons, the electromagnetic pulse that had disabled thousands of ships in seconds. They did not use their most powerful weapons, Jothic continued. They did not need to. What we saw was a demonstration, a lesson. They wanted us to understand what we had awakened and then go home, and that is what I recommend. We acknowledge human sovereignty. We withdraw. We negotiate, and if they attack us? Someone asked. They will not, a new voice said. All eyes turned to Vela, who had been given special permission to address the Council. The humans do not want conquest. They do not want war. They want to be left alone. She walked to the center platform, projecting an image of Admiral Chen. I have spoken with their leadership. I have seen their military facilities. I have read their histories. What I tell you now is the truth they tried to hide by sleeping. Vela took a breath. Humanity is traumatized. Their entire species carries the weight of a century-long war that forced them to become monsters to survive. Every tactic they used against the Kreth was developed because the Titans were worse. Every weapon was built because they faced extinction. And when the war ended, they looked at themselves and were horrified. She showed Chen's personal logs, translated and presented for all to understand. The words painted a picture of a species in pain, a civilization that had won its war but lost its soul in the process. They chose the long sleep not as an escape, but as hope, Vela explained. Hope that time would heal their trauma. Hope that their children, born centuries later, would be better than they were. Hope that the galaxy would forget the weapons and remember only that humanity had existed. But we did not let them heal, Vela continued. We condemned their worlds. We sent armies. We forced them to wake before they were ready. And now we see the result. Not humanity as they wanted to be, but humanity as they were forced to become. The chamber was silent. The truth of Vela's words sank in slowly. What do they want? Chancellor Varim asked quietly. They want what they wanted 500 years ago, Vela replied. They want to go back to sleep. On Terra, Admiral Chen sat in a command center that had been built to coordinate wars across multiple star systems. Now it was coordinating rescue operations and diplomatic contacts. The irony was not lost on her. "Admiral, the Council is debating our status," her communications officer reported. "The archivists have proposed a treaty. They want to discuss terms." "What kind of terms?" Chen asked. "Full sovereignty for all human worlds, a guaranteed no-entry zone, diplomatic recognition, and support for what they are calling the return to long sleep." Chen felt something she had not felt in a very long time. Hope. Small, fragile, but real. "Open a channel to the Council," she said. "Let us see if we can end this without more bloodshed." But before the channel could be established, alarms sounded throughout the facility. Chen's tactical display lit up with red markers. "Admiral, we have contacts entering human space. Multiple vectors. Unknown signatures?" Chen felt her heart sink. "How many?" "Over 1,000 ships. But Admiral, they are not military vessels. They are civilian. Refugee ships. They are transmitting distress calls." The image on the screen showed a ragged fleet of vessels, clearly damaged, clearly fleeing from something. The lead ship was broadcasting a message in multiple languages. "This is the Wanderer fleet of the Kreth outer colonies. We are not part of the Empire. We are refugees fleeing from something that destroyed our worlds. We detected human life signs. We are requesting sanctuary, please. We have children. We have injured. We need help." Chen stared at the screen. This was a test, not from the Council, from the universe itself. What would humanity do? Turn away refugees because they were Kreth, or help them despite what the Kreth Empire had done? She made her decision quickly. "Send the humanitarian fleet. Medical ships, supply vessels, everything we have available. Offer them safe harbor on Terra Prime. And get me a direct line to their fleet commander." Her staff moved to obey. Within minutes, Chen was looking at a Kreth female, her shell scarred and her eyes exhausted. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Forces. Your fleet will be given sanctuary. We are sending aid." "What are you fleeing from?" The Kreth female's mandibles trembled. "Something from deep space. Something that consumes worlds. It destroyed 5 of our colonies before we escaped. We did not know where to go. We heard about the battle at Terra Prime. We hoped that beings powerful enough to defeat the Grand Armada might be powerful enough to help us." Chen felt cold. Something that destroyed worlds, something that consumed colonies. It sounded familiar. Too familiar. "Do you have sensor data on this threat?" Chen asked. "Yes, I am transmitting it now." The data appeared on Chen's screens. Her analysts began processing it. Within minutes, they had an answer that Chen had hoped never to hear again. "Admiral," her science officer said, his voice shaking. "The signatures match Titan technology. The energy patterns, the attack methods, the consumption of resources. It is not exact, but it is close. Very close." Chen closed her eyes. "We did not destroy them all," she whispered. "Somehow, somewhere, a fragment survived. And it has been growing, evolving, waiting." She opened her eyes and looked at her staff. "Get me every human leader still awake. We need an emergency council. And someone contact the Galactic Council. Tell them we have a bigger problem than territorial disputes." Within hours, the situation had changed completely. The refugee crisis brought the reality of the threat into sharp focus. The Galactic Council, still debating what to do about humanity, suddenly had to confront something worse. The Titans, or something like them, had returned. An emergency joint session was called on Neural Station, a neutral diplomatic platform. For the first time in 500 years, human representatives sat at the council table. Admiral Chen attended personally, flanked by Vela and several other human officers. Chancellor Vorim addressed the assembly. "We face a threat that transcends our current disputes. The entities that destroyed the Kreth colonies match the descriptions of the Titans from human records. If they are truly related to the old Titans, then we face extinction." A representative from the Scientific Union spoke up. "Our analysis suggests this is not the original Titan collective. It appears to be a single fragment, a seed that has been growing for 5 centuries. It is smaller than the original threat, but it is still beyond our ability to fight." All eyes turned to Admiral Chen. She sat quietly for a moment, then stood. "The Titans were our enemy," Chen said. "We spent a century learning how to fight them, how to kill them. We developed weapons and tactics specifically for that purpose. Yes, we could probably defeat this fragment. Hope flickered across the chamber, but Chen was not finished. However, I must be honest with you. Fighting the Titans changed us. It made us into something we did not want to be. Every weapon we used against the Creth was a Titan war weapon. Every tactic was learned through a century of total war. If we fight again, if we wake the rest of our military forces and go to war, we will win, but we will also lose what little humanity we have left. Then what do you propose? Vorim asked. A choice, Chen replied. Not my choice. Not the Council's choice. But a choice made together. She pulled up a holographic map of the galaxy. Option 1, humanity wakes fully. We mobilize our military. We hunt down and destroy this Titan fragment before it can grow stronger. We become your protectors. We take on the role of galactic guardians. But understand what that means. It means humanity remains awake. It means we remain soldiers. It means we never get to heal. Option 2, we teach you. We share our knowledge of the Titans. We give you our weapons, our tactics, our strategies. You build a defense force capable of fighting this threat. It will take time. It will be costly. Some worlds may be lost while you prepare. But you will stand on your own, and humanity can return to sleep. Option 3, we do nothing. We let the Titan fragment grow. Eventually it will consume the galaxy. Everything dies. The chamber erupted in debate. Some species wanted human protection immediately. Others were too proud to accept help. Some saw this as an opportunity to gain access to human military technology. But it was Vela who spoke the truth that quieted them all. This is not about pride, she said. This is not about politics. This is about what kind of galaxy we want to be. Do we want to depend on sleeping guardians who wake only to fight our battles? Or do we want to stand on our own even if it is harder? She turned to Chen. You chose the long sleep because you wanted your children to inherit a better future. Let us give you that future. Share your knowledge. Teach us, then sleep. We will protect your rest. We will handle this threat. And when you wake naturally in your own time, you will find a galaxy that learned to defend itself. Chen looked at Vela for a long moment. Then she smiled. The first genuine smile in 500 years. That is the answer I hoped to hear. Over the following weeks, an unprecedented agreement took shape. The Terran Archive Treaty established humanity as the keeper of galactic knowledge. Every species would contribute their histories, their sciences, their cultures. Humanity would protect and preserve it all, creating a living archive that would survive any catastrophe. In return, humanity would share their military technology and tactical knowledge, but not as weapons of conquest. As tools of defense, the Council would establish a defense academy on Neural Station, staffed by human instructors who would teach the younger races how to fight if they must, but also when not to fight. A coalition fleet was formed, the Watcher Fleet, consisting of volunteers from every Council species. This fleet would protect human space while humanity slept. They would be the galaxy's guardians, ensuring no one disturbed the long sleep again, and most importantly, humanity would begin the return to long sleep. Over the next year, as the treaty was implemented, humans would gradually return to stasis. The soldiers first, desperate to rest, then the civilians. Then everyone except a small rotating crew who would maintain the archive and serve as a point of contact. Chen stood on the observation deck of the Marianas complex, looking out at Terra through the transparent dome. The blue-green world looked the same as it had 500 years ago when she had first entered the long sleep. Vela stood beside her. The old archivist had volunteered to be humanity's primary liaison, a position she would hold for the rest of her long life. Do you think it will work? Chen asked. Do you think the galaxy will really learn? I think they will try, Vela replied. And that is all we can ask. What about the Titan fragment? The Coalition fleet has engaged it twice now. They lost ships, but they won. They are learning, just as you hoped they would. Chen nodded. Good, that is good. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Chen said, Thank you for trying to warn them, for trying to prevent the war, for understanding what we were. You are not monsters, Vela said firmly. You are survivors who paid a terrible price for survival. But you chose to be better. That choice matters. Chen smiled sadly. I hope you are right. I hope when we wake again naturally without fail-safes forcing us awake, we will be the people we dreamed of becoming. You will be, Vela said with certainty, because you want to be. That desire, that hope is what makes you human. 2 weeks later, Chen lay in her cryopod one last time. Around her, millions of other humans were doing the same. The long sleep was beginning again. But this time it was different. This time they slept not as refugees fleeing their own nature, but as dreamers waiting for a better tomorrow. As the chemicals flooded her system and consciousness faded, Chen's last thought was a hope. A hope that the galaxy would be kinder when she woke. A hope that her people would heal. A hope that the children of the future would never have to learn what it meant to be weapons. Vela watched as the last pod sealed. The Marianas complex went quiet, its systems entering hibernation mode. All across human space, 200 worlds fell silent once more. But this silence was different. It was not the silence of death or abandonment. It was the silence of rest, of healing, of hope deferred but not destroyed. Outside the complex, the first ships of the Watcher fleet took up their positions. Species that had been ready to fight humanity now stood guard over their sleep, because they understood now. The humans were not enemies. They were not threats. They were the galaxy's memory and perhaps its conscience. 50 years passed. Vela grew older but continued her work. She taught new generations about ancient Terra, not as a place of fear but as a reminder of what war could do to even the strongest species. She taught them about the long sleep and why it mattered. She taught them to respect the sacrifice humanity had made. The Titan fragment was defeated in a battle that cost 300 ships and 20,000 lives. But the galaxy stood together and won. They learned. They adapted. They survived. Just as humanity had hoped they would, Vela stood before a class of young beings from a dozen different species. They were the new generation of Watchers, trained at the Defense Academy to protect the galaxy. Remember, Vela told them, the humans sleep not because they are weak but because they chose to be better. They could have ruled the galaxy. They could have made themselves our masters. Instead, they chose to dream of a time when they would no longer be needed as warriors. Will they ever wake? One of the students asked. Perhaps, Vela said, in 1,000 years, or 2,000, or whenever they are ready. And when they do wake, I hope they find a galaxy worthy of their sacrifice, a galaxy that learned from their example, a galaxy that remembers that the greatest strength is knowing when not to use your power. She looked out at the stars, where human worlds slept in silence, dreaming their long dreams. Sleep well, my friends, she whispered. The galaxy is learning. You can rest now. You have earned it. And in the deepest levels of 200 worlds, humanity slept on, dreaming, healing, hoping for the day they would wake naturally to a galaxy that no longer needed sleeping guardians. The Council had condemned ancient Terra. The galaxy had trembled when the sleepers awoke. But in the end, humanity had given the galaxy something more valuable than military might. They had given them hope. Hope that even the most traumatized could heal. Hope that the most powerful could choose restraint. Hope that tomorrow could be better than yesterday. And in that hope, perhaps, lay the beginning of true galactic peace.